have any disturbances. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I am very happy to be with all of you in the ISKCON Youth Forum Girls Program on this topic of wonders of faith. It is our custom that we start with a little kirtan. So I will start with kirtan for 5 minutes, and then we will have a lecture, and then we will leave the floor open for questions and answers. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Shri Radha Gokulanand ki Jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadraman ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki Jai, Shri Shri Guru Gauranga ki Jai. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagaranathambikam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijanasaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaganalita Shri Vishakamitamsya Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lankayate Girim Yakrupākamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Vanchakalpatarubhasya Kripā-sindhu bhayevacha Patitānam pāvanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurangishe Namaha. Pancharatmatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. Aradhyo Bhagavan Prajeshatanaya Tadbhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamulam Prema Pumatho Mahan. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabho Matamikam Tattadaratna Paraha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'm so happy to see so many of you here today. Very pleasant surprise that all of you had the faith to come to the temple today. You will all understand English?
Yes.
So you came here because of faith. Some faith. Some of you may have had less faith. Some of you may have had more faith. But there is some faith because of which you came here and you did not go somewhere else with your friends. So what is this faith? What is it that drove you to come here? Maybe you asked one of your friends, I am going to the Hare Krishna temple for a program. Please come, let us go. And maybe some of your friends said, yes, let us go. And maybe some of your friends said, no, I have no faith in these things. I don't believe in these things. I want to relax. I want to enjoy. Did it happen to any of you? Does it happen sometime? That some of your friends say, oh, I don't believe all this. How many of you have experienced this with some of your friends? Yes. So it happens many times. So what is it that you have which some of your friends don't have? It is some faith. Where did that faith come from? Why do you have that faith and somebody else does not have that faith? Have you thought about this? We think, well, it is her nature, she doesn't have faith. My nature is to have faith, so I am coming. Yes, but where is this coming from? Faith in God is something very precious, very rare, not easy to find in this world. We have faith in so many things. Actually, I will tell you an important fact. Nobody in this world can survive without faith in something or someone. Even in the most ordinary acts of our life, there is some faith that we have. When you sit in a railway train, you have faith in the railway authorities, even though some accidents may have recently happened. But still you have faith that the Indian Railways will work properly and it will bring you safely to the next destination. So internally you have some faith. That is why you are willing to go into that train. Even though you may not actually think in this way, but internally you are thinking like that. When we enter into a plane, we have faith in the pilot, in the airline company, in the maintenance engineers of that aircraft, in the airport authorities. You have faith and you don't even know those people. You don't know the railway authorities, you don't know the drivers of the cars, but still you have some belief that they will not bang into me, that I will be safe, the plane will not crash, the train will not have an accident. So we have some faith inside us somewhere because of experience, because of many things. So why does faith come in anything? We develop faith in something generally because of our experience. So we see thousands and thousands of trains are running every day and nothing happens. Once in a while, very rarely, some train has an accident. So we say it is a rare occurrence. But actually hundreds of trains are running safely. So because of that experience, you get some faith. So worldly faith is born out of our experience in the world. But what about divine faith? What about faith in God? That also to some degree is born out of experience. But there is something more. This faith is coming from your previous life. Because in your previous life also you had some faith in God, in some religious or spiritual matters. but you did not complete your spiritual journey in the last life. So actually all of us did not complete our spiritual journey in the last life. So we have got an opportunity by the kindness of God. This is what Lord Krishna declares in Bhagavad Gita, to continue on that spiritual journey so that we may attain spiritual perfection in this life. So we may have made very little progress in the last life, but still we continue from where we left off in the previous life. And then we continue again and again over many lifetimes till that faith has accumulated and accumulated and accumulated, and finally that faith becomes Shraddha, Suddhada Vishwas, very firm conviction that yes, I believe in God very strongly. Initially, that faith may be very weak, Komala Shraddha. But as the time goes by and we move on the path of spiritual life, that faith or that Shraddha becomes stronger and stronger. When our faith is weak, then it can get easily shaken. Our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada used to say that in Second World War, when Germany and England were fighting, they were both followers of the same religion. And the mothers of the soldiers on both sides prayed to God, please save my son. Please protect my son so that he doesn't die. But so many soldiers on both sides died, and many of the mothers became atheists. They lost faith in God. So sometimes when the faith is very tender, Komala Shraddha, then that faith may get shaken when there is some disturbance or calamity in our life. But when the faith is very strong, then no matter what disaster or calamity may happen, that faith is not shaken. And we understand that this has happened by the kindness of God, of Lord Krishna. So faith in God is something very precious because it gives us tranquility, it gives us peace, it gives us happiness, it gives us internal strength, it gives us the power to face all kinds of difficulties in life. Is there anyone amongst you who has not faced difficulties in your life? How many of you have faced difficulties in your life? Raise your hand. Everybody. However, what happens? Sometimes when people face difficulties and they are not able to bear it, then they do unfortunate things. In extreme cases, sometimes we hear of students who commit suicide because they didn't get the required marks or didn't get admission into some coveted course. We hear of businessmen committing suicide because of some business loss. We hear of farmers committing suicide. We hear of so many other people committing suicide because they are not able to tolerate that unpleasant life. Is the abode or residence of Vidya, of knowledge. Himalaya is the residence of Hima or snow. Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, this material world is an abode of dukkha. Dukkha means misery. So just as the ocean is full of water and you cannot expect to find any in the ocean where there is no water. So similarly in this material world, we will be faced with many, many difficulties in our life, one after another. And many times what happens is many difficulties come together. And the problem with difficulties is they are not very polite. They don't take your permission before entering into your life. They don't say that, can I come into your life? Then naturally you will say no. But they don't listen to you, they don't ask you, they just forcefully enter your life. And then we become very disturbed. And we wonder, why has God done this to me? Why has it happened to me? Why me? Have you sometimes asked yourself this question? When you have gone through some difficulty, how many of you have asked this question? Why has this happened to me? Or why has God done this to me? How many of you have asked this question? Raise your hand. So many. Okay. So, to have faith in God is something that gives you strength. But how does this faith come? Number one, as I said, it comes from your previous life, where you also had that faith. You performed some spiritual activities in that life, and therefore you are continuing in this life till you attain perfection. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Mat chitta sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi. He says, O Arjuna, if you are always thinking of me with love, if you are always conscious of me, if your chitta, if your mind is always fixed in devotion to me, then what will happen? Sarva durgani tarishyasi. Mam prasada. By my mercy, by my kindness, by my grace, you will overcome all the obstacles in your life. Durgani refers to the many difficulties that we will face in life. So Lord Krishna is saying in this verse that if we have devotion to Him, if we have faith in Him, then we will be able to cross over the various difficulties and obstacles in life. Mind you, Lord Krishna does not say that you will not have difficulties in life. That is a misunderstanding. Many devotees think, oh, I am now worshipping God, why has God done this to me? God does not say anywhere in any scripture that if you become His devotee, that there will be no longer any difficulties in your life. We see even great devotees like Prahlad, the Pandavas, and the residents of Vrindavan, and many others like them, faced so many difficulties in their life, one after another. But they never lost their faith. In fact, their devotion increased. So Lord does not say that you will have no difficulties in life if you become His devotee. But what He does say is that you will have the wisdom and the strength to face those difficulties nicely. And you will be able to tolerate that and cross over these difficulties without any discomfort. You will be able to bear it. So therefore, this will be like your kavach. You know what is a kavach? A kavach is a shield. A shield protects you. Generally, when soldiers go into the battlefield, they wear all sorts of protective gear, like helmets and bulletproof vests and so on, to protect themselves. But still, it is not complete and perfect. But strong faith in God is like a perfect kavach. It will protect you from misery in all types of troublesome situations, not only now, but for your whole life. When we don't have faith in God, then we must have faith in something of this world. So we have faith in our parents, we have faith in our teachers, in our doctors, in our lawyers, in the policemen, in our friends. That is fine. It is good to have faith in our parents and teachers and lawyers and so on, doctors and so on. But we must also remember that they are also human beings. And therefore they are not fully capable of providing you protection in all circumstances. In the great Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a beautiful verse in which it is explained that sometimes, despite the presence of the parents, a child may die an accidental death. I know of an unfortunate situation of somebody I know. The mother took the child to the terrace of the building, and for a moment when the mother's attention was distracted, the child climbed over the ledge and fell down from the 7th floor and died. Very, very tragic and unfortunate. So even though the mother was present, but the child had this accident. So even though the parents try to give all sorts of comfort and protection and care to their children, because they are not infallible, they are not supremely strong, they are only human beings. So they are not always capable of extending complete protection. Similarly, in this verse, another example is given, that sometimes despite the best doctors and best medicines, a patient may still die. How many of you are from medical college studying medicine? Some of you, okay, are medical students. And even if you are not a medical student, you have experience from maybe your families and where your relatives, where best medical care was given but still the patient died. So that does not mean that we should not go to a doctor or that we should not take medicine. Certainly we should do that. But in all cases, that is not a guarantee for protection. So it is good to have faith in doctors, in medicines, in parents, but there is no 100% guarantee of safety. Similarly, the third thing this verse says is that a drowning man may not be saved even if there is a large boat at sea. How many of you have heard of a ship called the Titanic? Titanic, you have heard? It was a very famous ship almost 100 years ago. And it was proclaimed to the world as being the strongest ship that could never sink. And it went out on its first journey from England to America. And while it was in the midst of the Atlantic Ocean, it collided with an iceberg and it sank. 1,500 people were on that ship. And some of them survived, but hundreds of the passengers died. So, even the technology that was the latest of the day, and they promised that this ship will never sink, but on its very first journey, it sank. So today, for our protection, we have so much technology, and we think that this technology will protect us. To some degree, it will protect us, but it is not foolproof. So the point is that even though, as a matter of our daily life, we have in so many people, king called Gajendra was sporting in the lake along with his large group of family members, elephants, a crocodile, and grabbed his foot in his mouth. And all the other elephants fled to the shore, the bank of the lake. And Gajendra was inside the lake fighting with the crocodile. Both were very strong. The crocodile was trying to pull the elephant into the water. And the elephant was trying to pull the crocodile onto the land or to release itself from the grip of the crocodile. It's because both were very strong. They were evenly matched. So the fight went on for a long, long time. But because they were fighting in the water, and the crocodile is an animal of the water, the elephant is an animal of the land, so the crocodile was in a position of advantage. Slowly Gajendra began to realize that I am losing, and gradually my strength is going down, and I think that I am going to be defeated and I will be killed by this crocodile. Now Gajendra was very powerful. An elephant is a very powerful animal, and he was the king of elephants, extraordinarily powerful. But even then, his strength, his intelligence could not save him. He was looking at the shore of the lake. He saw many of his other fellow elephants. They all becoming slowly. Eventually, Gajendra realized nor his family members, nor any or anything else of this world could save him. So what did he do? You see, Gajendra in his previous life was a human being. He was a king whose name was Indradyumna, and he was a devoted king. But because of some very wrong act he had done against a sage, he had been cursed to be an elephant. But somehow or the other, by the grace of God, he was able to remember the prayers that he offered in his previous life as a king. So he took a lotus flower from the lake in which the fighting was going on, and the Lord is very kind. When he sees that somebody is calling out to him, beseeching him with great faith and in a helpless condition, Lord Krishna helps. He immediately came on the back of Garuda, his carrier, and he rescued Gajendra. With his Sudarshan Chakra, he cut off the head of the crocodile, and in this way he saved Gajendra. So from this story we can understand how sometimes the kings and people of this world are incapable of completely protecting us. In such situations, it is only the Supreme Lord who can help us. So therefore, having strong faith in Lord Krishna at the time of difficulty and otherwise will be our greatest kavach. It can work wonders in your life, because when others in a similar situation are suffering a lot due to difficulties, you will be able to remain tranquil and calm and peaceful and strong. You will not lose hope. So this is why faith is very important. So faith, as I said, comes from the previous life, but it also comes from this life, from your experience. So there is a saying in English, faith begets faith. You can get faith only from somebody who has faith. You can get money only from somebody who has money. So similarly, you can get faith only from somebody who has faith. So who has faith? Only a devotee of God has faith. A staunch devotee. The greater the faith that a devotee has, the more you will benefit by keeping company with that devotee. Faith, you will also slowly start getting that faith. When we associate with the devotees of the faith of Lord Krishna, then automatically we also stronger and stronger faith. Sometimes, however, we are a little tender in our faith, and we may make some mistakes in difficult situations and emergencies. But we should always know that if we have the knowledge based on Bhagavad Gita, then our faith will continue to be strong. Faith must be based on knowledge. It must be based on proper understanding. Just like if I am sick, it is good to have faith in the doctor. But the question is, which doctor? If I go to a quack who has no medical qualification and he's only experimenting on me and gives me some kind of medicine which may eventually harm me more than save me, then that will be a tragedy. So while I must have faith in the doctor, but I must understand who is the doctor. I cannot go to a quack. So we look for a qualified doctor and then we go. So similarly, when we have faith, we must have knowledge in whom to put that faith. Nowadays in India, unfortunately, we find so many people worshipping all sorts of entities. I have heard of instances where there is a temple built to some film stars. They have a murti of the film star and they do arati and puja of the film star. There are some temples of some politicians, political leaders, and their faithful followers do arati and puja of those political leaders. There are some people who worship ghosts and bhutas and pretas. So there are people who worship and have faith in all kinds of things. So faith must be properly placed. It is not enough to just simply have faith. You must have faith in the right things. And that is why knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is required. I was mentioning that sometimes we tend to lose faith in emergency situations, in very critical conditions. So one story comes to mind. One time, there was this young man who had a hobby of rock climbing, climbing mountains. He liked to do that. He would go on treks in the countryside and he would climb mountains. And he would tie a rope. There was safety. And he was climbing. One time, however, he slipped. It had already become dark. He slipped and he fell a long distance. And finally, the rope caught him. And so he was hanging on his rope. But because it was dark, he did not see how much below, further below was the ground from him. So he was in great panic. And he was very afraid and he began to call out to God, please help me. And suddenly a voice came up. And the voice said, my dear child, it is I, God. You called me and I am here now. So he looked everywhere but he could not see anyone. It was dark. But he heard the voice clearly. He said, are you really God? He said, yes, I am God. So he said, please help me. He said, do you want my help? He said, yes, yes, please save me. He said, all right, I have a very simple solution. You please cut the rope. Now he was hanging from the cliff. Now he did not know where he was, how high he was. And God's voice told him, you cut the rope. And he was thinking, oh. And then he asked, is there anyone else over there? So he did not have complete faith. And then, next morning, his friends went searching for him when it was daylight. And they found him hanging from the rope. And do you know how high he was from the ground? Only 2 feet. So had he listened to that voice of God and had faith and cut the rope, he would have fallen only 2 feet. And he would not have injured himself. But now, because he was hanging from the rope, he froze to death in the bitter cold of the night. So this goes to show how important. I will tell you another story to illustrate the two contrasting cases of somebody who has faith and somebody who does not have faith. All of you have heard of the great saint Narada? Yes? How many of you have heard of him? So, very often to the abode of Lord Narayan, which is Vaikuntha. So he was singing the names of Lord Narayan and going, and then he came across a cobbler. A cobbler was busy singing the names of God and he was doing his work. And he saw Narad Muni and he said, "Oh great saint, please accept my respects." And he bowed down before him.